Two sisters, one choice. One knelt in the mud to honor her mother, the other spat on it. Now one is a queen in a mansion and the other is scrubbing car tires in the sun. In the dusty village of Obalende, the sun was a red eye watching the struggle of a widow. Mama Shade sat on a low stool, her fingers bleeding from peeling cassava all day. Beside her, Nala knelt in the dirt, fanning the fire and humming a sweet song to soothe her mother's aching bones. "Mama, eat a little," Nala whispered, offering the best part of the roasted yam. To Nala, her mother was a queen without a crown, and she treated her with a devotion that the villagers talked about in hushed, admiring tones. She worked the farms until her palms were blistered, just to ensure the household didn't go hungry. Every drop of water she fetched from the stream was a prayer for her family's survival. Inside the hut, the atmosphere shifted and Sira walked in, her hips swinging with a pride that didn't match their poverty. She looked at the plate of yam and hissed and kicked it across the floor. "I'm tired of eating like a prisoner. Look at my skin. It is becoming dry like the sand because of your useless cassava," Sira screamed at her mother. While Nala spent her coins on medicine for Mama Shade's cough, Sira stole from their small savings to buy cheap, colorful lipsticks from the market. She refused to sweep, refused to cook, and treated the hut like a cage that was beneath her. "One day, I will be the one everyone bows to," she vowed, mocking Nala's dusty clothes. "And I will leave you both in this graveyard." The day of departure arrived with a heavy rain that turned the village path into a muddy mess. Mama Shade had finally accepted that her daughters needed to seek a better life in the city. She handed them 2 small bags. "Nala, my jewel, your heart will guide you. Sira, my beard, remember that pride is a wind that blows out the candle of grace," the widow wept. Sima didn't even hug her. She snatched the bag and stepped out into the rain, cursing the mud that stained her only good sandals. Nala, however, knelt in the mud, kissing her mother's feet. "I will come back for you, Mama. I will build you a house of stone," she promised through her tears. They walked for miles, until the village trees faded into the concrete skeletons of the city's edge. As night fell, they reached a place where the road split. Sira pointed to the right, where bright neon lights flickered in the distance. "That is the way to the rich men. I am going there." Nala looked at the left path, which was dark but felt strangely peaceful. "We should stay together, Sira. It's dangerous." Sira laughed, a cold, mocking sound that echoed in the dark. "Stay with you and be a beggar? Never! Go your way and I will go mine. Let's see who the city loves more." With a final insult, Sira disappeared into the bright lights, leaving Nala alone in the shadows of the unknown. Nala walked down the dark path, her heart beating like a drum. Suddenly, she saw a big black car stopped by the road. A man sat on the ground holding his leg. He looked very tired and his fine clothes were torn. Nala did not run away. She ran towards him. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked with a soft voice. The man looked up. He was Mr. Benson. He was a very rich man, but right now he looked like a beggar. He had hurt his ankle while trying to fix his car. Nala knelt in the dirt. She used her own clean headscarf to wrap his wound. She gave her last cup of water. She didn't know he was a millionaire. She only saw a person in pain. Far away, Sira was walking on the bright road. She saw the same black car from a distance, but she did not stop. "Look at that old man," Sira laughed to herself. "He's dirty and his car is broken. I don't have time for poor people." She walked past him with her nose in the air. She was looking for a palace, not a person to help. She wanted a shortcut to wealth. She didn't know that the dirty man she ignored was the king of the city. Sira kept walking until she reached a cheap hotel. She spent her last money on a bed, dreaming of gold, while Nala was busy helping a stranger in the middle of the night. The next morning, Mr. Benson looked at Nala. He saw her dusty face and her kind eyes. "You stayed with me all night," he said, surprised. "Many people passed, but only you stopped." He called his driver on a small phone. Soon, a bigger car arrived. "Come with me, Nala," he said. They drove to a part of the city where the houses looked like mountains of glass. The gates were made of gold. When they entered the mansion, Nala gasped. The floors were so clean she could see her own face in them. "This is my home," Mr. Benson said. "Since you have no place to go, you will stay here. I need someone I can trust." Inside the mansion, a young man walked down the stairs. He was very handsome, with skin like cocoa and eyes that were kind like Nala's. This was Tariq, Mr. Benson's only son. He looked at Nala, who was wearing her simple village dress. Most girls in the city wore heavy makeup and expensive jewelry, but Nala looked like a fresh flower. "Who is she, father?" Tariq asked, his voice deep and smooth. "She is the girl who saved me when the world turned its back on me," Mr. Benson replied. Tariq smiled at Nala, and for a moment the room felt warm. Nala felt her heart flutter. She was a village girl in a palace, and the prince was smiling at her. Sira was tired of sleeping on the floor of a cheap room. She had heard rumors of a village angel living in the great Benson mansion. Driven by hunger and greed, she tracked down the address. When she reached the Golden Gates, her jaw dropped. She saw Nala in the garden, wearing a beautiful new dress and holding a watering can. Sira's heart burned with a black fire. She didn't feel happy for her sister. She felt cheated. She pushed past the security guard, screaming and making a scene. "That is my sister! She stole my luck!" Sira yelled. She looked at the mansion and decided right then that she would take everything Nala had, even if she had to lie to do it. Mr. Benson and Tariq came outside to see the noise. Sira immediately changed her face. She began to cry fake tears, falling to her knees. "Oh, kind sirs, my sister Nala ran away and left me to die in the streets," Sira sobbed. She looked up at Tariq, trying to look beautiful while crying. Nala stood shocked, her heart breaking at her sister's lies. Nala wanted to defend herself, but her throat felt tight. Mr. Benson looked at Sira with a sharp eye. He didn't trust her, but because of Nala's kind heart, he agreed to let Sira stay in the servants' quarters. Sira smiled secretly. She was inside the palace now. The next Monday, Mr. Benson called both girls. "Nala, you are smart and humble. You will come to my office and learn how to run my business," he said. He gave Nala a desk, a computer, and a stack of books. Nala was so happy she thanked him 10 times. She started working immediately, helping the staff and learning quickly. The workers loved her because she never acted like she was better than them. But for Sira, the news was different. "Sira, since you say you are hardworking, you will help the cleaners in this mansion," Mr. Benson ordered. Sira's face turned sour. She hated the idea of scrubbing floors, but she agreed because she wanted to be close to Tariq. While Nala was becoming the star of the office, Sira was a nightmare in the mansion. She would throw the mop on the floor and yell at the older maids. "Do you know who I am? I am the sister of the future boss," she would brag. She spent her time hiding behind curtains, trying to watch Tariq. One afternoon, she saw Tariq sitting in the library. She purposely spilled a bucket of soapy water near his feet just to get his attention. "Oh, Prince Tariq, I am so clumsy because I am so tired from working," she whispered, trying to act sweet. Tariq only looked at her with pity. He could see the darkness in her eyes that Nala didn't have. In the quiet of the office, Tariq often found himself standing by Nala's desk. He watched her fingers move across the keyboard with such care. Nala was not just working, she was building a future. One evening, the rain began to beat against the glass windows of the skyscraper. "You work harder than the men who have been here for years," Tariq said, leaning against the doorframe with a warm smile. Nala blushed, her heart dancing. "I do it for my mother, sir. I want to bring her out of the village." Tariq sat beside her, moved by her selflessness. He realized that while other girls wanted his father's money, Nala only wanted to honor her family. The bond between them grew like a sturdy tree. Tariq began to bring Nala small gifts, not diamonds or gold, but things she truly needed. He gave her books to study and a locket with a picture of the village inside so she wouldn't feel lonely. Their conversations lasted late into the night. They talked about dreams, God, and the weight of responsibility. "I have never met someone as pure as you," Tariq whispered one night, touching her hand. Nala felt a spark of joy she had never known. But behind the heavy library door, Sira was watching. Her eyes were filled with a poisonous green envy. She gripped her pinning rag so hard it tore. "She thinks she has won," she hissed into the darkness, "but I will burn this bridge before she crosses it." Sira decided that being a cleaner was too slow for her plan. She needed a scandal to ruin Nala's reputation. One afternoon, while Mr. Benson was hosting a meeting with important investors, Sira crept into the kitchen. She took an expensive gold watch from Mr. Benson's bedroom and hid it deep inside Nala's office bag. Her plan was simple. She would call for a search and humiliate Nala in front of everyone, especially Tariq. Sira walked into the hallway pretending to be frantic. "Help! Help!" she cried out, catching the attention of the guests. "I saw someone lurking near the chief's room. We must check everyone's belongings before the thief escapes with the master's precious jewels." The room went silent as the security guards gathered. Sira pointed her finger directly at Nala, who was standing beside Tariq. "Check her bag. My sister has always been greedy," Sira lied, with her voice dripping with fake sorrow. "She told me she wanted to sell the chief's gold to buy a house." The guard opened Nala's bag and pulled out the shining gold watch. Nala gasped, her face turning white. The investors whispered in shock, and Mr. Benson's face became a mask of stone. Sira smirked, waiting for Nala to be thrown into the street. But Tariq stepped forward, his eyes cold and sharp.
"Wait," he commanded, looking at Sira. "The security cameras in the hallway were just repaired this morning. Let us see who really entered the bedroom." The room was as silent as a graveyard as the security footage flickered onto the large screen. Sira's heart stopped. On the video, she saw herself creeping like a shadow into Mr. Benson's room, her eyes darting left and right before she snatched the gold watch. The footage showed her clearly dropping it in Nala's bag later in the hallway. The gasps from the guests were like slaps to Sira's face. She tried to speak, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, but no words came. Mr. Benson stood up, his presence towering and terrifying. "You try to destroy your own blood," he said. "In this house, we value truth above all things. You are no longer a guest."
Tariq walked over to Nala and took her trembling hand in his. "I never doubted you," he whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. The shame Sira felt was so heavy she could barely stand. Mr. Benson pointed to the door. "Since you love the death so much, you will live in the outer shed by the gate. You will wash the cars and sweep the driveway under the hot sun. If you complain once, you go to jail for theft." Sira was dragged out by the guards, her expensive shoes scuffing the marble she so desperately wanted to own. Nala watched her go, tears of pity in her eyes, but she did not stop the punishment. She knew that some lessons can only be learned through fire. Life shifted in the mansion. While Sira scrubbed car tires in the scorching sun, her skin darkening and her hands becoming rough, Nala flourished. Tariq took Nala to a hidden part of the estate, a garden filled with rare, beautiful African lilies. "My mother planted these before she passed," Tariq told her, his voice full of emotion. "She said only someone with a pure spirit could make them truly bloom." He handed Nala a small trowel. They spent the afternoon digging in the soil together, their laughter mixing with the scent of the flowers. For the first time, Nala felt she wasn't just a village girl or an employee. She felt like she belonged in Tariq's world. They were two souls planting a future. From the driveway, Sira watched them through the iron bars of the garden fence. She was covered in sweat and grease, her heart wrought with a new level of bitterness. As she watched Tariq lean in to whisper something in Nala's ear, her mind began to twist again. She realized that she couldn't beat Nala with lies about the past, so she decided to target the future. She had overheard a secret about Mr. Benson's business, a secret about a land deal in their old village, Obalende, that could ruin the family's reputation if it went wrong. "If I can't have the crown, I will burn the palace down," she muttered, wiping grease across her forehead. She began to plan a way to leak the secret to a rival. In the quiet of the evening, Nala was organizing files in Mr. Benson's private study. Her eyes fell upon an old map of their home village, Obalende. The document revealed that the very land where Mama Shade's hut sat atop a massive deposit of limestone. Mr. Benson's company had already signed papers to buy the surrounding area, but the deal was missing one crucial signature from the local chief. Her heart raced. If the project moved forward without care, her people would be displaced, and their history would be erased by heavy machinery. She realized Mr. Benson wasn't trying to be cruel. He simply didn't know the heart of the village. She tucked the map under her arm, determined to find a way to save her mother's home while keeping the company's honor. Outside, Sira had been listening at the window, her ears pressed against the glass like a hungry snake. She heard enough to understand that the map was worth millions to the right person. She saw Nala leave the room with the documents and knew this was her chance to regain her power. Sira didn't care about Mama Shade or the village. She only saw a way to buy her way back into luxury. That night, while Nala slept, Sira crept into the main house through a laundry vent she had left unlocked. She searched Nala's room, her eyes glowing with greed. She found the map hidden inside a hollowed-out book. "Now," Sira whispered, a wicked smile stretching across her face, "I will see who the chief begs for mercy when his biggest deal falls into the hands of his enemies." Sira waited until the moon was high before sneaking out to meet a man named Chief Okoro, Mr. Benson's fiercest business rival. They met in a dark alleyway behind a row of shipping containers. Sira held the map tightly, her heart thumping with a mix of fear and excitement. "I have the key to Benson's downfall," she told Okoro, her voice dripping with arrogance. "For 50 million naira and a ticket out of this country, it is yours." Okoro looked at the young girl with a mixture of disgust and interest. He knew a traitor when he saw one, but he needed that map to block the limestone project. He reached for the bag of cash, but before the trade could happen, the headlight of a car illuminated the dark alleyway, blinding them both.
Tariq stepped out of the vehicle, his face a mask of disappointment. He had followed Sira after seeing her sneak out of the gate. "Is there no end to your darkness, Sira?" he asked, his voice shaking with a deep sadness. Sira stood frozen, the map in one hand and her dreams of wealth in the other. "I did this for us," she lied, her voice shrill. "Nala was going to use this to ruin your father." Tariq shook his head, stepping closer as security guards surrounded Okoro's men. Nala spent her whole evening writing a proposal to turn that land into a community-owned cooperative so the villagers could become rich alongside us. She was trying to save your mother's home while you were trying to sell your mother's soul.
Sira did not weep or beg when the guards brought her back to the mansion. Instead, her eyes burned with a new terrifying coldness. If she was going down, she would ensure Nala's happiness was dragged into the mud with her. While the household slept, Sira took a bottle of corrosive cleaning acid from the shed and crept toward the garden where the rare African lilies grew. With a twisted grin, she poured the burning liquid over the flowers Tariq's mother had planted. She watched the petals curl and blacken in the moonlight. "Let him see how his pure spirit takes care of his memories," she hissed. She then moved to the kitchen, taking Nala's special village spices and replacing them with a slow-acting poison meant to make the chief fall ill, planning to blame Nala's primitive cooking. The next morning, the mansion was filled with a horrific smell of burnt earth and chemicals. Tariq knelt in the garden, his heart breaking as he looked at the dead, blackened stems of his mother's favorite flowers. At the same time, Mr. Benson collapsed at the breakfast table after just one bite of the porridge Nala had prepared with love. Sira stood in the corner, her face a mask of fake horror. "I told you," she screamed, pointing at Nala. "She is a village witch. She destroyed the flowers because she was jealous of your mother's memory, and now she has poisoned the chief to take his wealth." Nala stood frozen, looking at the bowl and then at her sister. The evidence looked terrible, and for a moment even the loyal servants began to murmur in fear. Sira moved like a predator, grabbing Nala by the hair and shaking her. Tell them how you hate this family." Nala did not fight back. She only looked into Sira's eyes with a profound sadness that makes Sira's skin crawl. "Why, Sira? I was bringing Mama to live with us next week." This news only made Sira angrier. She raised her hand to strike Nala, but Tariq caught her wrist in a grip of iron. He wasn't looking at the dead flowers anymore. He was looking at Sira's hands. "The acid you used to kill the lilies has left yellow burns on your own fingers, Sira," he said, his voice like thunder. "And the poison you put in the porridge? I saw you on the kitchen monitor I installed after the watch was missing." The silence that followed was heavy. Mr. Benson, who had only fainted because Nala luckily used less spice than usual, sat up weakly. He looked at Sira not with anger, but with total disgust. "You are not a human being. You are a cancer," he said. He called the police, but Nala stepped forward, her voice trembling. "No, Papa Benson, do not send her to jail. That would be too easy for her." Nala looked at her sister, who was finally beginning to tremble. "Send her back to the village. Let her live in the hut she hated so much. Let her walk the same dirt she mocked. She will stay there, and the village would know what she tried to do to her own blood." Sira screamed and cursed, but her power was gone. Before the guards could take her away, Sira tried one last desperate gamble. She knew Tariq was the key to the empire. That night, she bathed in stolen expensive oils and put on a sheer silk robe she had hidden away. She crept into Tariq's private quarters while he was mourning his mother's garden. She threw herself at his feet, letting the robe slip from her shoulders. "Tariq, look at me," she pleaded, her voice a forced honey. "Nala is a boring village girl. She doesn't know how to please a man like you. I can be whatever you want. I have fire in my blood." She tried to wrap her arms around his neck, her eyes wide and hungry, desperate to use her body to stay in the mansion. Tariq stood up abruptly so that Sira fell on the cold floor. His face was filled with a look of pure loathing. "You think love is a transaction? You think beauty is just skin and silk?" he asked, his voice shaking with contempt. He looked at her as if she were a stain on the rug. "Nala's beauty comes from her soul, a place you will never visit. You smell of expensive perfume, Sira, but your spirit reeks of rot." He called the guards without looking back. As they dragged her out, she screamed like a wild animal, scratching at the walls and cursing the day Nala was born. She had tried to sell herself and found that her price was zero. The journey back to Obalende was not in a dusty bus, but in a fleet of black SUVs. Nala sat in the back with Tariq, her hand in his. They reached the village just as the sun was setting. When they pulled up to the small crumbling hut, Mama Shade was outside, her eyes dim from crying and her body thinner than before. Nala jumped out before the car even stopped. "Mama, I am home," she cried, falling into her mother's arms. The villagers gathered, gasping at the sight of the wealthy men and the beautiful girl who looked like a princess. Nala didn't show off. She immediately began offloading bags of rice, clothes, and medicine for everyone in the community. Then, the last car door opened. The guards pushed Nala out onto the dirt. She was wearing a tattered dress, her hair matted, and her face stripped of all makeup. The villagers, who had heard the stories of her wickedness from the drivers, moved back in silence. "This is your home now, Sira," Mr. Benson said, stepping out of the lead car. He handed a small rusted hoe to her. "You will walk this land to pay back the village for the seeds your mother struggled to buy." Sira looked at the dirt, then at Nala standing in the sunlight with a prince. The contrast was a physical pain. She had left as a queen in her own mind, and she returned as the village's greatest shame. 6 months later, the village of Obalende looked completely different. Nala had used her savings and Mr. Benson's investment to build a modern hospital, but the greatest sight was the new house she built for Mama Shade, a beautiful bungalow with a wide porch where the old woman could sit in the shade. On this day, the air was filled with the sound of talking drums and high-life music. It was Nala and Tariq's traditional wedding. Nala looked breathtaking in her heavy coral beads and gold lace. As Tariq took her hand in front of the whole village, he whispered, "I didn't choose you because of the day I met you. I chose you because of the heart you carry every day." The celebration was juicy with joy. The richest men from Lagos and the humblest farmers sat at the same tables, eating from the same pots. Mr. Benson stood up to give a speech, his voice booming with pride. "I lost a watch once, but I found a daughter," he said, looking at Nala. He announced that the limestone project would officially be a partnership with the village, making every family there a shareholder. Nala wept tears of pure happiness. She had achieved her goal. She had saved her mother, helped her people, and found a man who loved her for her soul. The village girl was now a queen, not because of a crown, but because of her kindness. While the music echoed through the trees, a lonely figure watched from the edge of the farm. Sira was covered in the very dust she used to heat. Her hands were calloused and her back was bent from months of weeding the village farms. No one spoke to her at the party. When she tried to beg for a piece of the wedding cake, the children ran away, calling her the sister with the bitter tongue. She sat by the old well eating a cold piece of roasted corn alone. She had wanted the world, but her arrogance had left her with nothing but a rusted hoe and a heavy heart. The story of the two sisters became a legend in the land, to tell them about Nala, whose words brought light, and Sira, whose pride brought darkness. The lesson was clear to all. Your character is your destiny. Life is like a farm. You cannot plant thorns and expect to harvest roses. Sira remained in the hut, a living reminder that beauty fades, money can vanish, but the way you treat people will follow you forever.